We're doing another chronological Bible study, and we're in Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 through 3. And this is where it says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it, he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. This is talking about an age of rest. This is not a literal seventh day of rest. One, the sun and the moon weren't created until the fourth day. And if we're being intellectually honest, days are determined by the rising and setting of the sun. So we know that on days 1 through 3, it wasn't talking about literal 24-hour days. That's one. Two, Yeshua says in John 5:17, my Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. What would that mean if he's always at his work? Where's the day of rest? The day of rest is in eternity. Yah is not confined to time and space, but we are. So all things in creation has already been completed. The kingdom of heaven has already come to earth in eternity, but in our timeline, it hasn't. This is why prophets can prophesy. This is why people can see visions, because they are basically cracking into eternity. They're being given visions of what has already happened, but hasn't happened in our timeline. No, that is not erase the freedom of choice. It's just that God lives outside of time and space. So these things have already occurred. Here's another way we know that this is speaking to an age, because in Hebrews 4, verse 1, it says, therefore, since the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you be found to have fallen short of it. Okay, it says entering his rest. Then it goes on and says, they shall never enter my rest. That's in verse 3. Then it says, and yet his works have been finished since the creation of the world. Why? Because he's beyond time and space. Verse 4 says, for somewhere he has spoken about the seventh day in these words, on the seventh day, God rested from all his works. And again, in the passage above, it says, they shall never enter my rest. So if it's already done, but we haven't entered it, where do we stand? We stand in time and space where we're hoping to enter that rest. So this is telling us that this day of rest, the seventh day of creation, is an eternal age that we're hoping to enter, right? But in our timeline, Yah is still at his work, and we hope to enter that rest. And so this is why I say not just the seventh day, but all the days of creation are ages. And it is our hope to enter the rest of Yah in the seventh age. And what is the age of the seventh day? It is the coming of the kingdom of heaven to earth, and all things are completed. That is what Genesis 2, verses 2 through 3 is speaking to, from my belief.